Picture this. A jester walks into the king's court, bells jingling, face painted in a grotesque smile. Everyone laughs, but then he speaks and suddenly the room falls silent. Because the fool has just said what no one else dared to say, what everyone was thinking but too afraid to voice. In the grand theatre of human archetypes, few figures provoke as much fascination and discomfort as the fool. Not the court jester with his calculated wit, nor the simpleton who stumbles through life unaware, but something far more unsettling, the holy fool, the sacred madman, the one who sees too much and speaks too plainly. This is the paradox we must confront. How does the fool, the laughingstock, the outcast, the one society dismisses, become the vessel for the deepest truths? The mask that reveals. Throughout history, the fool has worn many faces. The court jester with his cap and bells, the trickster god dancing at the edges of mythology, the holy fool wandering through medieval streets, the starets in remote Russian monasteries, wild-haired and speaking in fragments, even today's class clown or the comedian who makes us laugh until we cry. But here's what's fascinating. The fool's mask isn't just costume, it's camouflage. It's protective colouring that allows dangerous truths to slip past our psychological defences. When we laugh at the fool, we lower our guard, and that's precisely when wisdom strikes. Think about it. When a comedian points out society's contradictions, we applaud. When a politician does the same thing, we riot. The fool's apparent powerlessness becomes their greatest power. Their foolishness becomes a kind of spiritual archaeology, excavating truths buried beneath layers of social convention and self-deception. The sacred madness. What unites these seemingly disparate figures across cultures and centuries is a profound inversion of conventional wisdom. Where society values knowledge, they embrace unknowing. Where culture demands conformity, they cultivate strangeness. Where civilization builds walls between the sacred and profane, they tear them down with laughter and tears. In many traditions, the fool is sacred. The Sufi mystics spoke of the wise fool, someone so intoxicated with divine love that they appeared mad to ordinary eyes. In Christianity, there's the concept of being fools for Christ, those who embrace seeming foolishness to reveal higher truths. The Zen tradition gives us the figure of the crazy wisdom master the teacher, who acts in seemingly irrational ways to shock students out of conventional thinking. Saint Francis strips naked in the town square, renouncing his father's wealth, and the crowd jeers at his folly. Yet he sees in their faces the hunger for meaning they cannot name, knows which among them will follow him to the leper colonies, which will turn away in fear. His poverty becomes a mirror that shows others their spiritual bankruptcy. His joy, a rebuke to their carefully constructed miseries. These aren't accidents of cultural evolution. They're recognitions of a fundamental truth. Sometimes you have to step outside the system to see the system clearly. The terrible clarity. There's something unsettling in this phenomenon, how those who appear most disconnected from worldly wisdom become the most penetrating readers of human hearts. The holy fools walk among us with eyes that see beyond the veil of ordinary perception, their apparent madness masking a terrible clarity. They stumble through marketplaces speaking in riddles, yet somehow know that the merchant's wife weeps in secret, that the baker's son will die in 3 winters, that the seamstress carries guilt from a deed done 20 summers past. The starets in monasteries somehow discern the secret sins of pilgrims who travel thousands of miles seeking counsel. They know, without being told, of the adultery, the theft, the moment of cowardice that haunts a soul. They see the future not through prophecy, but through understanding the inevitable consequences of present choices. They know the past not through revelation, but through recognizing the weight of unconfessed burdens in a person's gait, their way of avoiding certain topics, the careful architecture of their denials. Perhaps true wisdom requires this kind of holy foolishness, a willingness to appear mad in order to speak truths that sane society refuses to acknowledge. They become living paradoxes, simultaneously the most isolated and most connected of beings, fools who know everything that matters. The journey of unknowing. The fool doesn't just possess wisdom, the fool is the journey to wisdom. Look at the tarot. The fool is card 0, the beginning of the journey, but also the end that circles back to the start. The fool steps off the cliff, not out of ignorance, but out of trust. They represent that leap of faith required for any real growth. The fool begins knowing nothing and needing to learn everything. But by the end of the journey, they've learned the most important lesson of all, that true wisdom often looks like foolishness to those still trapped in their certainties. The ancient Greeks distinguished between Sophia, wisdom, and phronesis, practical wisdom. The fool embodies a third type, what we might call innocent wisdom. It's the wisdom that comes not from accumulation, but from subtraction. Not from knowing more, but from unknowing what we thought we knew. The emperor's new clothes. We live in an age of experts, of algorithms, of data-driven everything. Yet somehow, the fool archetype persists. Why? Because expertise can become a prison. The more we know about how things should work, the harder it becomes to see how they actually work. The fool, unburdened by expertise, can ask the questions that experts have learned not to ask. Consider the story of the emperor's new clothes. Only the child, the fool figure, could see what everyone else had trained themselves not to see. The adults weren't stupid, they were socialized. And sometimes, socialization is the enemy of truth. They break the rules precisely to show us that our attachment to rules might be the real foolishness. In a world that often rewards conformity and punishes authenticity, the fool reminds us that wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to keep asking the questions that matter, even when they make us look foolish. The eternal paradox. Here's the deepest paradox. The moment the fool becomes consciously wise, do they stop being a fool? Or does true wisdom require maintaining that foolish beginner's mind? The answer might surprise you. The fool was always wise. The transformation isn't in the fool, it's in our perception. The fool doesn't become wise by abandoning foolishness. They become wise by revealing that what we called foolishness was wisdom all along. They show us that our categories, wise and foolish, sacred and profane, serious and silly, might themselves be the real illusions. The fool's laughter echoes through the corridors of power, not because they don't understand the game, but because they understand it too well. They laugh because they see the cosmic joke. We're all part of the elaborate pretense that any of us really knows what we're doing. Living the sacred paradox. What does this mean for us? For those navigating their own lives, trying to make sense of this chaotic world, maybe it means embracing a little more foolishness. Maybe it means questioning the things we're supposed to take seriously. Maybe it means remembering that sometimes the most profound insights come not from the mountaintop of expertise, but from the valley of not knowing. The fool archetype challenges our most basic assumptions about wisdom, sanity, and social order. It suggests that perhaps our collective pursuit of respectability, accumulation, and control has blinded us to deeper truths, and that sometimes the clearest vision comes from those society deems mad. In the liminal spaces where madness meets wisdom, where apparent disorder reveals hidden patterns, where the most marginalized figures become the most essential voices, conventional categories collapse. Here, the fool reminds us that choosing to be a fool might be the wisest thing we can do. The fool is simultaneously the most isolated and most connected of beings, living at the margins, yet speaking to the center, appearing powerless while wielding the greatest power of all, the ability to make us see ourselves clearly. They are the living reminder that wisdom isn't about conforming to what others expect, but about having the courage to remain authentically human in a world that often demands otherwise. And maybe, just maybe, that laughter, that willingness to appear foolish in service of truth, is the beginning of real wisdom. In recognizing our own capacity for foolishness, we might just discover our capacity for something far more precious: the courage to see clearly and speak truthfully, regardless of how the world might judge us. The fool's journey never truly ends, because wisdom itself is not a destination, but a way of walking through the world with eyes wide open, heart undefended, and the sacred courage to keep questioning what everyone else takes for granted. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences and perspectives might just spark something in others. And if you feel these reflections have challenged or inspired you, make sure to subscribe for the upcoming articles. The journey through archetypes and uncomfortable truths has only just begun.